It is often in our time of greatest need do we notice just how important the healthcare system is to our society. Luckily for us in New Zealand, the ability to have access to doctors, medical care and treatment is treated as a right and not a privilege. However, deep within our hospitals, medical centres and universities, the medical landscape of New Zealand has been quietly undergoing a gradual transformation over the last few decades.
We know, for instance, that the number of international medical graduates in New Zealand is increasing. We know that the number of women in our medical workforce is increasing. We know that the age of our doctors is slowly increasing overall.
Whilst medicine has traditionally been an area dominated by white males through the ages, it appears that nowadays this is no longer the case. In 2010, 49% of students qualifying for entry interviews at Auckland University were Asian or Indian. Less than 40% were Pākehā. There is a belief that this change is because Asian students are more industrious and conscientious.
Now, the view that they are diligent and hard-working is a very favourable view, but anyone getting into a medical school is going to get there not just on the basis of ability, but also hard work. So, in fact, if you said that the number of Asian students getting into medicine reflects the fact that they are academically bright and work hard, I'd say no, it's more than that. It means they've got their lives in place, they sleep well, they eat well, they have their social life sorted out. You need to be more than just a diligent library rat to get into medical schools.
The fact that such high numbers of Asian students are passing through our medical schools ensures that the hospitals of tomorrow will be staffed by an increasingly ethnic workforce.
Look, I personally think it's just reflecting our current society. We are especially Auckland is a metropolitan city, so our medical school's reflecting that. And I think in particular, it's not just about the entire community that we're looking at. We're also looking at the age bracket specifically of the 15-29-year-olds that apply for medical school. That age bracket is becoming more and more Oriental, and we're kind of seeing that represented in our medical schools.
There is also a cultural factor. Asian cultures place great emphasis on the medical profession. Along with becoming a doctor comes job stability and social status. Many Asian parents often actively encourage their children into the medical field.
My family personally were quite ecstatic that I got into medicine. I think there is definitely a cultural aspect, well, for some Asian students and in some Asians about medicine as a profession.
But when it comes to the question of whether ethnicity plays a role in a student's success, Michael doesn't seem to think so.
It's an individual thing. I've got lots of friends, so Pākehā and Asian, who work equally as hard, if not harder than I do, at least anyway.
The students themselves appear to be happy about the changing demographics of the medical school.
I think it's great that we have a very multi-ethnic group within our class. You know, I get to meet people every day from very diverse backgrounds who still have an underlying passion for what they're doing and are really committed to being the best doctors they can be. And that's great.
Another issue facing New Zealand's health sector is that of workforce retention. A large number of graduating medical students are heading overseas, and significant numbers are not interested in coming back.
In my day, about 1 in 4 of us went overseas and never came back. It's now increased to maybe 1 in 3 go overseas and never come back. And we've been very concerned because in my day we left with either a husband or a wife, or we left owning some property or something. So the likelihood was that we'd want to come back. Even if we didn't, our husband or wife or whoever would want to. And so the concern was that people going overseas now are increasingly single and in debt and don't own property. In other words, they're not domestically rooted to New Zealand.
The fact that our medical students are heading overseas places our healthcare sector in a catch-22 situation. We have a current doctor shortage. We are training more doctors, but they're all heading overseas. And subsequently, we're bringing in overseas trained doctors in order to fill the gap.
I think we do need to be more reliant on our own trained doctors, and overseas trained doctors really do form a vital part of our workforce at the moment. And reports by the World Health Organization probably show that we have the highest rate in the OECD, probably an over-reliance.
However, relying on such an extensive base of foreign doctors to fill a local need also raises issues of its own.
We have about over 40% of our medical workforce is overseas trained, and there are several problems with that. The first is it's unethical. We're taking doctors from countries which need them more than we need them. and we can afford to, and we should be training enough of our own. I think overseas doctors bring different points of view, different cultures, different perspectives, and maybe if 15% of our medical workforce was overseas trained, we'd have the ideal mixture. But when it's 43%, then you don't have a local culture. What you have is a potpourri.
The combination of an increasing number of Asian medical students and the already large number of overseas trained doctors raise concerns about a possible workforce mismatch. A situation where patients, mostly the elderly who want to visit a doctor of a European background, will no longer have the choice to do so.
My view is what they want to see is someone who's a good doctor who can actually communicate well with them and actually manage their problem effectively. And now, in the effect of good communications and good technical medical skills, I think whether the person's Asian or Maori begins to fade into insignificance. Having said that, I actually think the medical workforce should look like the community it serves. And that's the reason why I am not particularly anxious about the number of Indian Asian students coming to medicine. That's the community we are increasingly going to be serving.
I find that I'm able to transition across those different cultures much more easily because I've had those multiple cultural points across my life. So I think we need to be training people to be empathetic to all cultures. This is the kind of society that we're living in, and that's the kind of doctors that we should be creating from the word go.
So, what is the future for New Zealand's healthcare system? What is the plan to get out of this catch-22 situation?
We are going to train more doctors. The government's already elected to put 200 more students each year into the training system, so we are going to train far more doctors. The second thing is we're going to retain the ones we train. We're going to spend a lot of money and time and trouble making sure that we have the right pastoral care, performance management and nurturing education environment so that we keep 9 out of 10 of our graduates.
Regardless of what the future holds or the demography of the doctors themselves, the young doctors of today are certainly clear about their passion.
Look, every day you feel a lot of privilege doing what we do. I think in particular it's moments with patients when they tell you stuff that there's no way they would have told anyone else, and you feel like you're contributing to people's lives in such a significant way. That's when you feel like absolutely, just blessed that you're a part of this kind of profession.